So this here is the Food Fortunes deck, which is a really interesting variant on a tarot deck. And I want to show you through the deck and its cards, and I also want to explain how it is that I use it, and I use this deck very often in my day-to-day decision making. So comes a little guidebook. The guidebook gives you a few spreads that you can use if you want, and then just lists off all the cards. It doesn't give you esoteric meanings for each card. You could use this as a tarot deck if you really wanted, as a traditional tarot deck doing traditional readings. But most of these cards, some of them are plays on tarot cards, but most of them are just food. This right here is the Major Arcana, aka the Trumps, and you can see here, like the beginning, this is very analogous to the Fool, but I don't really see a lot of the Magician here. I don't see a lot of the High Priestess here. I don't see a lot of the Empress here. So, this should be the Emperor, but it's called the Other Duo. Most of this is about the food itself, which I think is really for the best, because the purpose of this deck is to help you pick food. So it doesn't get too mired down in tarot symbolism. Instead, it just gets to the food part of things. And the person who did this, Josh Lafayette, is very gifted with thinking of and illustrating lots and lots of different types of food. There's a very esoteric style to it while still staying pretty simple. And I just really appreciate the devotion to food that is here. Now, see, this is interesting. The Fallen here, this apple, is kind of a play on the devil in terms of, like, the name, but it also obviously looks like the Lover's card. But it's number 14, which would be Temperance. And then this would be number 15, the Devil, but the Forever Golden really looks more like the World in terms of its design. So, I think it does a really good job of playing on tarot symbolism and tarot style, but it would be very difficult, I think, to read these as actual tarot cards. But I'm sure that you have an actual, like, more traditional tarot deck that you could be reading from if you needed to read tarot. This should not be your first tarot deck. This should be the tarot deck that you order when you are hungry. So that's all of the Trumps, the Major Arcana, and the Major Arcana are reserved for staples. Basically, the main ingredients or the main themes that you would kind of orient a meal towards. And I think they do a pretty good job. You could probably just stick with the Major Arcana and get meal ideas. Now, what I like to do is use this deck to pick a place to go to eat, because often when someone says, hey, Felix, where do you want to go to eat? I cannot think of anything. I get decision anxiety immediately, and it's kind of a non-starter. I always end up picking the same place because I can't think of anything else. So instead, I take out this deck and I draw something to help me think of a restaurant. So let me show you a little bit through the suits. And one thing to note is that it'll be apparent that it's kind of hard to tell these apart. So the suits are mains, sides, sweets, and drinks. But once you get past the ace, they all have their own individual name. The mispronounced, the gyro. If you wanted to know how gyro was pronounced, it's gyro. The slurp is ramen. The Vietnamese is a Vietnamese sandwich. The Chinese, some of these are obvious. Some of them, the pressed one, is a grilled sandwich. And I think they do a really good job of making these very fun, but since the name of the card is on the bottom, even on the suits, it's hard to tell that you've got a suit card. But the indicator is way up here trumps have this little symbol. Whoop. See? That little symbol at the top tells you it's a trump. This little symbol at the top tells you that it's a main. And even whenever you're over here, you've got that little symbol there. Now, I hardly ever remember these symbols, but it doesn't really matter because it's pretty easy to just shuffle up this whole deck and then draw a card. I do want to show you a bit through what they've got. These are the sweets. The sweet holy one is a contrast against the holy one, which is a bagel. That's in the major arcana. And these are all very complete. They don't stick to. I think that they do a very good job of going through all different kinds of food. Not every single type of food that you would eat is represented here, I don't think, but quite a lot is, and definitely helps you pick out, like, what is it that you're hungry for? Where is it that you want to go to eat? If you want to cook at home, a lot of this will help you figure out what it is that you want to make for food. Now, this whole suit of drinks is very interesting because sometimes whenever you're picking a place to go, especially whenever you're going out, it's about what drinks they serve, and then, a burger is just a burger. And so I find this to be really useful in distinguishing different places to go. Because sometimes the big hallmark of a place to go out and eat ends up being the beverages it serves. So I'm gonna just go ahead, give this a quick shuffle, and honestly, I hardly ever shuffle this deck because I use a style of reading where I keep it mostly in the box. So I'll put the deck in the box. I'll keep the deck in the box, basically. And then whenever I'm like, all right, where should I order dinner today? I'll go ahead and I'll just make sure that you can see this. I'll just pull out a random card. From the middle, from the side, from the top, bottom, whatever. And then, the chip breaker. This would be, for instance, Chipotle. It even has chip in the name, would be a place that you could go. If there's a favorite Mexican restaurant you have that's local, this would also be a good indicator for that. But definitely somewhere that serves guacamole and tortilla chips. You can see all of the little decorations around here. There's the little crumbled tortilla chips that give you an idea of the kind of food you're going to be eating. So I'm going to go through a few cards here and give you an explanation of what they could be indicating. If there's no Chipotle near you, I mean, this could be a Taco Bell, I guess, although I'm not really sure I would go for... I don't know if Taco Bell even has guacamole. So the iced one, you want to go somewhere that serves iced tea. There's lots and lots of places that serve iced tea. Considering the style and everything, I think this would be a pretty good indicator for Cracker Barrel. The Italian, so you want to get some gelato? Go to Gelato Place. This is a real obvious one. Actually, let me go ahead and show you a couple of things that I find are really often indicators for things you might not expect. So it's like the fountain. You could go to any place with a fountain drink with this one. It's basically just telling you that's, you want a fountain drink. Here you could be going to any kind of fried chicken place, really, or even fish and chips. But what I find is, so Queen of Mains. Anytime that I get a queen, I think, is it time for Dairy Queen? Anytime I get a king, it's like, is it time for Burger King? Or is there a restaurant nearby that has Queen or King in the title and that has food there that matches what's on the card? Because sometimes these these might be getting you to think a little bit more creatively, not just about what food is there, but what's the name of the restaurant, especially when it comes to the major arcana. This one's called the White Knight. So White Castle. There's a lot of things that could be determined whether or not you've got some local places. For instance, the thickest here. This is a big, thick shake. So I would expect that you go to a diner, like probably a mom and pop place that has, you know, some really good homemade shakes. But like it could also be a fast food place. It could also be a chain. It's just I would expect kind of a more local place from the thickest. Let's see, the link. I don't go to a lot of places with sausage. I do think this is a pretty good play on the Hanged Man, though. This would actually be a pretty good indicator for barbecue or sausage on your pizza. But basically, this helps you get to the point where you can figure out, like, hey, I wanna go to this place. And sometimes it's more about the name of the place than the food that's there. This looks like McDonald's fries, and I think it's really a good indicator for go McDonald's. Even though technically lots of places serve fries and onion rings, and looks like a little fried okra there, or maybe fried cheese curds. But it's just like it gives such a appearance of a McDonald's fries that I think often this would be an indicator for McDonald's. Anyway, this isn't a very complicated deck. I think that the most confusing thing about it is that it's a little hard to tell the suits apart, especially if you're in a named card. Like, this looks like a major arcana card, but it's actually for sides. And then, yeah, these are mains. You can tell that but from the name here, but like this indicator up here says mains. The thing is, like, it's not really a big deal to have to tell apart the suits or the major arcana because it's so food focused and food centered. You really don't have to get bogged down in all that. It's about eating. In fact, I think the back of the guidebook expresses it best. This is a play on cogito ergo sum. Cogito ergo sum means I think, therefore I am. Edo ergo sum means I eat, therefore I am. And that's what it's all about. Just go get something to eat. By the time you're done with this deck, you should know what it is that you're going to eat. That's the goal. It makes it simple. It's a nice, simple deck, very well illustrated, very well thought through, and highly recommended. I'll have a link in the bottom of the description for this deck. It'll be a affiliate link, which will help me out if you click on it, but if you decide to get it at your local tarot or craft shop instead, I highly encourage that. So if you ever have trouble figuring out what to eat, highly recommend this deck. If you're looking for a starter tarot deck, this would not be a good starter tarot deck. I would try lots of other decks beside this one, but it reads a lot more like an oracle deck, to be honest, than a tarot deck, and I think it does its job well, which is to feed you. So if you like this video, please click the thumbs up, leave a comment if you want. If there's a deck that you'd like me to look at, go ahead and leave that in the comments, and I'll see if I can get that deck, or if I have that deck already, and give it a review and show you how I use it and some different ways it could be used. And otherwise, thanks for watching, and have a nice day.